Welcome to another episode of CrossTalk. My name is Kevin Tocci, and I will be your host for the next 30 minutes. And as you have come to expect from this particular program, we like to feature different things. First and foremost, of course, we serve the communities of Whitman and Hanson. We focus on a lot of local things that go on, whether it's an issue, maybe it might be a local election. Sometimes we like to talk about events that are going on in the area. Sometimes we like to go outside of the box, and actually that's what we're going to do today. We are going to go outside of the box. We have a very special guest who is joining us. This young lady, I have known her for a while. This is kind of the first time that we're actually kind of doing a little TV. We have Devlin Miles. She is a songwriter, singer for Sweet Little Bloodhound, but she's also a local girl, which is really cool. Welcome to CrossTalk.
Thank you, Kevin. This is exciting.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's cool to be be supported by the local community as well. I'm excited.
Now you're somebody who has traveled around the world. You're somebody who was recognized by the Grammy, BMI. I think you actually started out by doing a tour with Bon Jovi. Am I wrong here?
No, I would love to say I did a tour with Bon Jovi.
But you opened.
Right, yeah.
Is that correct?
We won a contest. The band won a contest to open for them.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little drama there, which is always interesting when you get your whole fans to rally behind you, and we won the contest, and all the fans were really excited. And in the fine print, it says we can choose another band to open. So they actually chose the other band to open. So I can't wait till I'm on The Voice to have John Bon Jovi there to say, "Hey, what happened?"
Okay.
But I think in that situation, that was one of the things that the marketing team does for Bon Jovi, and they're not always aware of everything that's happening while they're trying to promote like tours. So, but that was the first time I ever really experienced a loss or a disappointment with the fans. Like all of them were like, "I hate Bon Jovi. I'm never listening to his stuff again." And it was one of those things that was it was a cool feeling to know that everybody supported you, and then you keep moving. So yes, we won the contest, but in the end, we didn't get to open for them.
Talk to me about being a singer-songwriter. What steered you into that direction of being a musician? At what age did you start realizing that, I have a voice and this is what I want to do?
Well, funny thing is, growing up here in Brockton, we had a babysitter. We lived on Rosemary Street right off of Vanilla Road. And I would write songs like about whatever was happening. The babysitter would be there, and I'd write songs about that. So it was very early on that I would write about just everyday action that was happening. I would sing a melody, and I always get praise at the family gatherings. So sing a song, sing something. I was in Annie when I was younger. I was a little orphan, So the family's always been supportive of the music scene, and I just kind of navigated towards the music. There's also a lot of musicians in my family, like my uncles play, my aunts all have played and sing, and my mother was a big singer. She loved doing chores to Neil Diamond and Billy Joel cranking and coming out of our speakers at Rosemary. Everybody's like, "We know your mom's doing chores," when the music's blaring from the house. So it was fun. That's where my influences come from, I think. And
are your influences similar to your mom's, or do you have different influences? Those two can be heard in your music.
It's interesting that you asked that, because I also have a podcast, and in doing that, I had an indie artist. Her name is Kate Vargas, and she said, even though my influences are what I think they are, which would be Neil Diamond and Billy Joel, which comes from my mother's side, I also don't necessarily hear it in the music. Like Tina Turner was a big one. Mm-hmm. So, and then when I have people listen to the music, it favors Southern rock, maybe alt country. And that always surprises me, because I didn't grow up on the country music at all. Like, I guess there's like a Southern sort of feeling that happens in my singing. And so I call it Southern soul mixed with classic rock. So, yeah.
That's how you kind of fuse things.
Yeah, people say artists like Sarah Evans, Carrie Underwood I know, but Sarah Evans I wasn't as exposed to, so I had to go listen to her. And, I love like Fleetwood Mac, sort of the big rolling drums, and sort of Tom Petty, really great electric guitar riffs. And that's kind of what I navigated towards in my production of the CD and the songs themselves, and hearing them fully. But I don't know if someone would necessarily pick that out of what they hear. Allman Brothers is something that I've heard a lot. The Eagles is another comparison of the stuff that we do. So it just depends on the listener and what their exposure is, I think, a little bit.
How'd you go from combining this, your voice, to picking up a guitar and combining the two? When did that happen?
You know, I used to songwrite with other musicians initially. It was I didn't have the know-hows on an instrument, and I would lose those songs when those people would travel. It was based in New York that I was pursuing the songwriting, and they would, you know, go on, move out of New York, do something different, and the songs would go away because I didn't have the chord structure. So around 26, I picked up the guitar and continued learning that so that I could write to it and accompany myself. But always when I write, I hear it fully, you know, and whatever I want to bring to people, I want to bring it to them as I hear it. Because sometimes just acoustically, people can't envision the whole song.
Right.
So that's why when you do the production of the CD, you think about all the other elements along the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was it like to put together your first CD and also have your own band?
Well, this is actually, I would say my two and a half CD, because the first one was like a 3-song CD. And it
Like
had
a mini EP?
Yeah, but it wasn't publicly released, and the reason for that is I wrote a song. It was a September 11th song, and it was about 2 years after that this production was done, and I was really proud of what it was. But because I lived in New York, I felt very, I felt like New Yorkers and the nation were trying to heal, and it wasn't the right time to release it. It still gets me a lot of recognition in the songwriting world. People really like the song. It was called The Camera Fades. But I didn't release that one, and then I went on and I did the Autumn's Fire CD, which was a solo production.
Right.
And I had a lot of session players on that, which is someone that would come in and they're familiar with the tunes, they'll learn them, and then they'll bring in what they have to offer on it. And then the difference on this CD is it's the first release of Sweet Little Bloodhound is the band. And we decided to release it as a band, one, because it has that production feel of a band. And I've always wanted to be a part of a band. Like, that was my thing. I didn't want to be this solo artist out there doing self-promotion. Is so hard.
It's tough.
Yeah. And it's much easier to say you're part of an identity. Like, you are a part of the Whitman Hansen. Yeah, so that's easier to promote than the Kevin Tocci show. Or, you know what I mean? CrossTalk is easier to promote than the Kevin Tocci show. So it was a little bit of that, too, you know.
Talk to me about who else is part of Sweet Little Bloodhound.
Well, we have some revolving musicians as well as some placeholders, or not placeholders, but people that want to stay involved in the project. Greg Snedeker, who plays the cello and the keys, as well as we had Paul Kohansky was on the recording, and he's the bass player that we play locally in Massachusetts area. I mean, we haven't done a national tour with this band, so I don't know who's going to be able to hit the road when we go, because everybody has different commitments. So in truth, there'll be, Ben Folkoff laid down the lead guitar. He's a fantastic guitarist. We've had some Berkeley players, was the drummer Rick Moran, and some vocalists that played on the album, that sang on the album, will also do shows with us. If we do like spot touring, they'll come and join us. Because it's not, the independent touring is a little bit different and it can be costly. You have to pick your band, you know, how big the band is based on the venue and their budget, you know. So ideally, I would see the band as being a 7-piece band. But realistically, it's more played out as a 4 or 5 person band. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, yeah. And I don't want to digress back to the Devlin Miles band, but I mean, what experience did you take as someone who toured as a solo and had, you had people you would plug in while you were out and about? How are you taking that experience and your songwriting capabilities and applying them to Sweet Little Bloodhound? Right.
I would say, honestly, it was a little bit easier to just be the solo artist, and in that respect, because I could book anything. I could book a solo acoustic show, a coffee shop, or I could book a venue and hire musicians for that situation. But being part of a band, you have to incorporate them into the budget, and and it's been a little bit of a challenge because I've had to turn down opportunities based on there's not enough money available to fund us getting there. So that's been a little bit of a disappointment for me, where I'm striving as a solo artist for that connection, and then it hasn't always come to fruition for the band to come. So I'm working through that right now to try to find a better balance in whose role does what in the band. Like booking, there's a lot of hats you wear as an independent band. You know, you've got to book the band, you have to promote the band, and you have to rehearse the material. You know, just so many things so many hats to wear. It would be great if people take on more ownership in the band, and that's what I've been struggling with a little bit in terms of like where we fit as a band and what can you do, what can you offer, you know.
Well, there's always growing pains.
Yeah, I think so.
When you're evolving
Definitely.
as a band, what's the songwriting process been like? Is it you and a couple of select folks from the band who sit down and write, or is it you and a individual who's written some of the songs on the CD?
Well, it's interesting. The collaboration part, that was probably the biggest difference, I think, from the get-go about this album, was that there was more collaborating. In Autumn's Fires, there was mostly songs written by myself solely. In this album, I think there's 6 or 7 tunes that are co-written, and the rest would be I wrote by myself. But I loved co-writing, but it wasn't always with the band. So, for example, Jabril Noor is a big co-writer on this album, and he's part of BR and Time Bomb, which is a band that I would do shows with in New York. And he's a hip-hop drummer, right? So when we got together, he lived in my neighborhood at the time, so I would just walk over. And it was really during the time of when the economy turned down and everybody was just kind of in a funk, right? And so the two of us got together on a weekly basis and we started writing together. And it was really interesting because in his dynamic of a band, being a hip-hop band with a rapper leading the scene, they didn't have an acoustic player. So for him to work with an acoustic guitarist and playing the drums, we wrote some really interesting stuff. So like Barely There was a co-write, Shadows Creep was a co-write, and they kind of have these eerie sort of feels on the CD. So, I don't know. And then there's a couple of other co-writes. Udi Levy, who was my guitarist in the first band, did Be My Lover with me, and he's a jazz player, and he was fantastic. I would definitely work with him more in New York if the opportunity arises, but like I said, it depends on the gig and the venue where you're going.
What's your method or approach when it comes to songwriting? I think everybody has a different approach, whether it's from life experiences. Some people like being storytellers. Some people just want to kind of just spin. What's your method, and is that a method applied into Sweet Little Bloodhound's new CD?
You know, I really focused really hard on the songwriting in this album. I edited like crazy. And I probably had about 35 or 40 songs to choose from to get on this album. And I found that they sort of navigated together, like these sort of work. Thematically, these songs kind of are telling a similar story, a similar tonality in, say, my voice and the way it's delivered. I felt like they belonged together. There was like a family of 15 songs. We chose 2 cover songs on the album. But in the process of elimination, there are still songs out there that I don't know if they'll find a home in another project coming forward, or if it's just those were the ones I wrote in that time period, and they're kind of frozen with that CD. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. So going forward, my song process has been a challenge to get back to the discipline of songwriting, because songwriting is much like guitar. You have to discipline yourself to do it, to continue to get better and grow. And I didn't feel that I have to get in a better rhythm with the current writing situation. So I don't know if you're talking about tools or tricks or whatever. I don't have any at the moment.
No, but everybody has I've just like you. I've come across many a musician, had the opportunity to speak with musicians. Everybody has a different approach as to how they tackle it. And just out of curiosity, I want to know yours.
Yeah, well, melody always comes to me, and a lot of times because I didn't know music when I was younger in terms of theory. So when melody comes to me, I write the lyrics to remember how to phrase it. So if the phrase is, I want to hold you till your bones, and it's like how I wrote or how I sung hold, I would be able to pick it off the paper and know that hold is the long note. So it always came to me lyrics and melody for that reason alone. Yeah.
Now, we've come to that part of the show. This is more than just a talking head show today, which is really cool, is that Devlin is going to be kind enough to play not one, but 2 songs.
Okay.
Okay. What have you chosen to play for us today?
Well, since I just sang that first line for Sweet Little Bloodhound,
Yes.
I think I'll start with that one because that one is, it's the title track of the CD. And I don't want to hit this thing here. It's called, it basically came about, the song came first. Because sometimes people ask, how did Sweet Little Bloodhound, the band, come about? And Sweet Little Bloodhound was the song first. And it was observing someone else's life at the moment, and it came about in this way. And the interesting thing about the first line of this song, it came to me in a dream, and it was one of my aunts that delivered that. It was my Aunt Lucia, and it was strange. She showed up in my dream, and she said, "I want to hold you till your bones." Like it was like Wayne, her husband, told me that, and to tell her. So I said, "This strangest thing. You came to my dream and you gave me this lyric." And so I was like, "That's such an interesting lyric. I want to hold you till your bones." And I start the song with this, and it kind of goes from there. So.
All right, we'll share away.
Shall we? Okay.
Devlin Miles, everybody.
Okay. Cool. I guess. I wanna hold you till your bones keeps running through my mind, and all your little lies you've been telling for some time. There will be no peace tonight, 'cause hell's raging on the inside. Don't kick a girl when she's down, or she'll hunt you around town. I'm a sweet little bloodhound. I'll hunt you where you hide and catch you every time and feel you on your trail. Sweet little bloodhound, gonna toss you like a bone and howl all night long. I'll bite you in your pride. Sweet little bloodhound. You said she's just a friend, and one drink led to a binge. Now you're lying like a dog and can't stop texting her or calling. I'm a fool to believe you wouldn't do this to me, but it's time to step things up. You're not the only dime on this block. I'm a sweet little bloodhound. I'll hunt you where you hide and catch you every time. I feel me on your trail, sweet little bloodhound. Gonna toss you like a bone and howl all night long. I'll bite you in your pride, sweet little bloodhound. I stood by the door and waited for you to come home, but nothing is as loyal as a dog in its home. Oh yeah, ooh, I'm just a sweet little bloodhound. Oh yeah, ooh, just a sweet little bloodhound. Oh yeah. Thank you.
Sweet Little Bloodhound by Devlin Miles. Well, actually, Sweet Little Bloodhound.
That's
You're
right. That's right.
Happens to be the front woman
That's right.
of the group. Of course, you'll do one to kind of close out the
Sure.
show.
Sure.
Let me ask you, what's on tap as far as this spring and summer? I'm sure that it's about getting out and touring, right?
Definitely. We released the album really late into the fall. It was like November. And then you go into a season where it was a very rough winter. So that was a little bit tricky for touring and traveling. But I knew that winter can be tough on the East Coast. So to get people to the shows. It wasn't even so much about us getting to them. I was like, oh, people probably won't come out. So it allowed me time to work on the promotion side of getting recognition for the album and booking gigs. So this summer, this spring, late spring, we'll be doing some more spot touring, mostly Northeast. We're going to be doing the Cutting Room June 24th and probably the Iron Horse as well in June in Northampton. And Boston, we haven't hit yet, so I'm really looking to do some Boston gigs, probably May, maybe June. And then we'll be booking some other community events and shows during the summer season as well, and then probably the West Coast come fall, and maybe Canada late fall. So it's all in the process. My booking agent, Kim Nicolais, is also helping with that too. So we're booking, trying to book like mad fools, but it has to be the right venue, like I said, for the band. So might do some solo things along the way. So
you had mentioned at the beginning of the show about stuff like The Voice. Is anything like that entice you? Is that something that's intriguing that you say, well, maybe one day it's something I may look at? Or do you feel that maybe you've grown beyond something like that?
No, it's a really interesting question, because everybody, when you're an indie artist, are like, you should go on The Voice, or you should go on, whatever the latest rage is.
Yep.
And I have actually gone to the audition for The Voice, and it is
crazy.
It's a big cattle call, and they have it in January in New York, and you're standing outside at the Javits Center with 6,000 people waiting to get in at 5:30 in the morning. By the time you make it inside, it's 1 o'clock. I mean, these are the behind-the-scenes things that people don't see. So you're freezing all day, and you get inside, and you get, if you're lucky, 16 bars of music, no music supporting you. It's just a cappella. So it's really hard to prove yourself in that little bit of window. And I also know that it depends on what you write on that paper. Like if you said you were the cousin of Lenny Kravitz or something like that, that's going to get them to get you at least a call back. So all that stuff does play into the picture. I mean, I've done some other big open calls. I did, what's the other one? The talent show, the Great American Talent Show.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. The one with Howard. Yeah, it's America's Got Talent.
Right. So I did that years ago, and that was funny. It was actually a fun audition because they have all these different kinds of acts.
Oh, yeah.
So you've got these huge marching bands in this huge, big arena. So all these people are, gathered together doing different things. And that one was less intimidating than standing there with 6,000 other singers that are trying to get famous, I guess.
But I think it's with the addition of Howard Stern, no disrespect to the king of all media.
Right.
But it's kind of turned into a little bit of a sideshow. It's more of a sideshow now, and the zany stuff that can be showcased, almost like American Idol, where I think American Idol has taken a more serious turn with Jennifer Lopez and Harry Connick Jr. And Keith Urban compared to what you had in the past, where they wanted to see the people who'd come in and sing bad, and when you'd see all the nonsense that would be entertaining, and through there you'd find a few gems. It's,
But of the shows that are out there, I think The Voice is on to something. Like more, I mean, they've been around for a long time.
Like it.
But the reason is that, one, they are just using their voice to get the attention initially. That was one reason why I respected the show, just because, they do also send agents through, like, whether they want you to believe that or not. There's always somebody that gets through. They're like, they made it ahead of 25,000 other people to get to this audition. So, but I think that the premise of the show, let it be The Voice, and how video killed the radio star or whatever. It's true. There are so many wonderful, wonderful voices out there that don't get the time of day because they don't fit what America's image is of what is fantastic,
Sure.
So I like that concept about The Voice. And they get to work with the artists themselves. And these are people that had to figure out a way and navigate the industry themselves to get the attention to their band or to their solo act. So I respect that, as opposed to sitting in judgment. I don't like the song you chose, So I like that, yeah.
We got a couple of minutes left. We got a little less than 5 minutes left here. If I could ask you this, and that would be, what do you want to say to folks who will be watching this? This will be something that'll be on the internet. If there's something you want to get out there for folks to be able to follow you, whether it's through social media, whether it's through your website, what are some of those things that folks can find you?
Cool. I think that I recently launched a podcast, SLB in the Trailer, which is Sweet Little Bloodhound in the Trailer, and it's something where I wanted to move with the band as we tour so that we could interview other artists as well. And that's what we do. That's on YouTube and SoundCloud and all those medias, as well as sweetlittlebloodhound.com. And that's where all the music can be found. We have these, cool merchandise that we'll be taking around on the tour. We've met some really fantastic people, just interviewing them for the SLB in the Trailer. And I'm hoping this summer, whether I'm going as an act to be at some of the summer festivals, like Floyd Fest in Virginia.
Sure.
There's some fabulous bands playing there, so I want to go to that specifically as just watching it. And we are going to, audition to do, part of the smaller act stage, but I want to hopefully interview these people, these artists that play these bigger festivals and get their feed on where they are in their career too. So it's kind of a fun little thing that I'm doing as well. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Website?
sweetlittlebloodhound.com.
Okay.
And that's really it. You can find all the other leads to everything else. There's a cool blog on there called The Howler, and it has 10 tips for indie artists going into the studio. But not just 10 tips, it has 10 articles of 10 tips of where you are in the studio process. If you're like preparing to go into the studio, if you're trying to audition people for your band to be in the studio, if you're interviewing engineers versus producers. It's just things that I put together as an indie artist learning, because I'm like, oh, I wish this tool was out there when I was running my album, because it was so challenging, and I made a lot of mistakes, and so it's fun to share those things with people, and we do that on the podcast as well, which is geared towards indie artists as well as creative entrepreneurs like yourself, Kevin.
Absolutely.
We'll have to interview you for it.
Maybe one day. Well, we got less than 2 minutes left.
Okay.
What would you like to take us out with?
Sure. This song is a song on the album. It's one of the older ones that's been around. It's called Twice, and it basically is about a big, long snowstorm that we had a couple years ago. It was more of an ice storm. And here it goes. Thank you for having me. Cold and stormy night, trees falling from the sky, cutting power lines, neighbors with flashlights, sitting here with you by candlelight. There's only one thing left on my mind. Could lightning strike me twice? You hook me with your smile, you match to your profile, kiss the entire night, Merry New Year's time, chance of meeting you in real life. It's fantasies and fairy tales aside, feels like lightning struck me twice. Come on, lightning strike me twice.
Very nice.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Hey, that's another crosstalk in the books. Until next time, have a great day.